What is going on? What is up, y'all? I know it's going to be a tough sell here tonight. That was a tough game to watch, and it's a little bit later than usual with the 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock for you guys on the Eastern or in Ontario, Quebec. Game started about an hour later than the usual. But we are live, guys. We are live on. I think we're live on Instagram. We may not be. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust these lights, and they're not cooperating for me. There we go. We're on Twitch, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and we're on TikTok, guys. So thank you for joining us. Again, Habs lose 6-1. A tough one tonight. Not a fun game to watch. I think that was probably one of the hardest games to watch for the Canadiens in quite some time. They didn't look very good from minute one. They struggled out of the gate, and it carried on and carried on. You were kind of waiting for them to turn things around a little bit. You were hoping that they would eventually figure themselves out somehow, but it just never seemed to come, and it never seemed to to turn around for them. We've seen them make some pretty special comebacks in recent games, in particular against Colorado on the weekend. But that just didn't seem to be in the cards for tonight. So, it just wasn't in the cards for tonight, and they just weren't able to bring it back around, and they ended up with a 6-1 loss to a pretty good team. But a team that is in essentially the same exact situation that they are, right? A team that is on the verge of a wild card spot, a team that maybe wasn't expected to be there earlier in the season, and they're playing really, really good hockey since the Four Nations break, just like the Montreal Canadiens. So this, I thought, was going to be a pretty good test for Montreal, a good test for the Canadiens to go up against a team that's in a very similar situation to them, a team that is built similarly to them, a team that is kind of at the same stage, perhaps out of their development. Maybe they're a little bit ahead. They've got, some veteran medium stars, guys like Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas on their team. And I thought it would have been a good test for them. But there clearly was one team tonight that was ready to play, and one, I won't say they weren't ready to play, but they weren't able to respond to what St. Louis was prepared to give them tonight, right? St. Louis looked really, really strong, and the Canadiens just didn't have a response for that tonight. And again, that's probably an indication of lack of experience, probably an indication of youth. And it's great to say that we played against a really, really good team tonight. But guess what? You're going to end up playing against really, really good teams sometimes, and you can't just sort of throw your shoulders up or throw your hands up in the air and shrug your shoulders and say, oh well, they were just too good for us tonight. Because you got to be able to play those games, right? You got to be able to play those games, and you have to respond in kind. So this is Habs After Dark, guys. Welcome to the show. My name is Devin. Bienvenue tout le monde à Bleu, Blanc, Rouge, Nuit. Je m'appelle Devin. C'est une émission où on parle à propos des Canadiens. Ce soir, on va parler au sujet de 6-1. Guys, this is Habs After Dark. We talk about the Canadiens. We talk about hockey. And tonight we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and their 6-1 loss to the St. Louis Blues. If you're not subscribed, please do so. The button is just here down below. If you're watching in a replay, we certainly appreciate you subscribing and joining our family. We try to have a place where players can... where people can come and join the conversation and talk about the Canadiens, and they can do it without having to deal with a lot of the other stuff that goes on the internet. We're trying to create a place for civil, intelligent discourse about the Canadiens. So if that's interesting to you, then please give us a follow, subscribe, whether you're on Twitch, whether you're on IG, whether you're on YouTube, or on TikTok. Lack of experience, cough, cough. Martin St. Louis, how are your players that flat-footed after 3? They're very young, Jared DeLuca. They are a team that is still learning. They're a team that's still in development. They were playing against a very, very good team tonight, and they just didn't have an answer for it. They didn't have a response for it. It happens. Again, it's something that hopefully will happen less and less as they continue to grow and develop. But again, I think you guys are overreacting a little bit to one game. We play the Florida Panthers on the weekend. Yes, the Canadiens do play the Panthers on the weekend. That showed us we're not ready for the playoffs. See, this is the amazing thing that I find about Montreal Canadiens fans is that they can literally go from planning a Stanley Cup parade to selling the team, over the course of from one game to the next, right? Like Saturday night, everybody is on fire, and what a great comeback against one of the best teams in the league, Colorado, and we're in a playoff spot, and everything's awesome, and you have one rough night, and all of a sudden, oh, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs, and it's a tough, it's a tough one. Like, I get it. I don't understand it. This is a rebuilding team. There's going to be tough nights. They're young. There's going to be nights where they look like they're young. There's going to be nights where they look like they're inexperienced. We've gotten accustomed a little bit to them being looking more experienced and showing more experience than what they really have. But tonight they didn't, and that's going to happen, right? They're not. They're still a young team, right? They're not the team that we saw in October and November, but they're also, they're going to have their struggles. Development is not linear. There's going to be steps backwards, and there's going to be rough games. You can stomach a 4-2 loss, but 6-1. Well, I don't know what to tell you, Jer. I don't know what to tell you in your stomach, man. I can't help you with that. But again, I think it would probably serve you a little better to take a bigger, a wide angle view of the team rather than sort of, having knee-jerk type reactions to every good and bad thing that happens with Montreal. Look at the big picture, right? They're rebuilding. They're in a playoff position at the moment. Nobody expected them to be in a playoff position. They're playing, really, really good hockey. The rebuild is ahead of where most would expect it to be right now. Management is sticking to the plan, and things are certainly have been positive over the last dozen or so games since the Four Nations break. Right, it's been pretty positive all around, and so the fact that they've had one game where they didn't look the best and had a bit of a struggle. I don't think it's I don't think the sky is falling, and I don't think we all of a sudden need to start freaking out over it. But Claude Shaw, welcome. Yes, it was a tough night. It wasn't a fun game to watch. Hey, Larry, what's going on? Everyone to the office tonight. Yeah, I don't know that anybody we could really point to anybody that played their best game tonight. I think that's probably true. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be, and certainly I'm not selling my jerseys or switching my favorite team because of tonight. I'll wait and see how the entire season pans out. Right? Again, if the Canadiens don't make the playoffs this year, it doesn't mean that the season's a failure. It doesn't mean. I don't. There's no. You're not upset if the Canadiens don't make the playoffs this year, right? You're fine. Like it's still a successful season. This is a successful season. Anything that happens between now and the end of the season is just pure gravy. It's icing on the cake. There you go, Johnny. I appreciate it. John Venditti. Montreal has to be patient, and things will work out for them. Yeah, 100%. Right. Look at the big picture. Look at what's going on with this organization. Look how it's improved over the last 2.5 seasons. Look where they've come from. The team that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon inherited and Marty St. Louis inherited. And look where they've come, like where they were then compared to now. Even look where they were at the beginning of this season and compare it to now. So again, this is all positive. Things are developing. Things are moving in the right direction, and an overreaction to one game is not you can react however you want, right? I get that, and you're a fan, and you watch the games, you pay your tickets, you buy your jerseys, you're a fan. You can do whatever you want, but I would certainly encourage you to take a bigger overhead view of what's going on with Montreal right now, because at the end of the day, if you're basing your highs and lows on whether or not Montreal Canadiens make the playoffs this year, you're very possibly setting yourself up for an unreasonable letdown, right? Your expectations are a little bit through the roof if that's if you're going to be upset that they don't make the playoffs. Like, don't get me wrong, like I get it. If they miss the playoffs by 1 or 2 points, you're going to feel upset. But when it comes time to look at the season in retrospect and look back at the entire season and what happened this year, it's going to be, it should be a positive reaction. Suzuki will show up for this team till he's on his deathbed. Yeah, again, I don't really have any issue tonight with anybody's effort level or the whether they showed up or whether they played their best or that kind of thing. I think everybody showed up, and I don't think anybody on this team isn't showing up. Do I think that they ran into a tough team and didn't have an answer for them? I think that's the more likely answer, right? Suzuki's your leader. He's your captain. You expect him to be a guy who leads the charge. And I thought he played okay tonight. But again, I thought the Canadiens faced a much better team tonight. They faced a team that was all over them, and they just couldn't figure out how to respond to that. Right? If you notice, the puck was skidding off their sticks. The puck seemed to be like hopping and bouncing around on them. They couldn't settle down the puck. Their passes weren't crisp. They, and the passes that were crisp were bouncing off of sticks. They were missing the net. They weren't capitalizing on their chances. There was a hesitancy there tonight, and it was very similar to the way they looked in the first period against Colorado, right? They were hesitant. They were a little bit slow. You say the bounces weren't going their way, but the bounces don't go your way when you're not playing with confidence, and they weren't playing with confidence tonight, right? St. Louis was taking it to them, and they struggled with that. You saw them; they just were flipping the puck over and over and over again tonight. Like the flipping the puck, I don't have a problem with it, and if you've heard Marty St. Louis talk about it, it's a last resort, right? If you come out of your own end and there's no other options, you flip the puck or you bank it off the glass. Like that's what you're taught as a defenseman, right? You come out of your zone, you look for your breakout, you look for your options, and if there's no options, then you might have no choice but to bank it off the glass, or alternatively you can flip it in the air. But tonight they were just kind of flipping it in the air as a first option, because they didn't feel confident, because St. Louis was really taking it to them, and they didn't really have the ability to respond in a meaningful way to that. What do I think about Monty's play? I thought he struggled tonight. I don't think it was. I think it was a tough game for him tonight. I think he's probably overworked a little bit. I don't think that means that he shouldn't have started tonight. I don't really have any issue with the fact that he started tonight. I do think that he's being overplayed a little bit. I do think that he's playing a lot of hockey, but again, they've had 3 days off. They haven't played since Saturday. He hasn't lost a game in regulation since February the 22nd. That's 10 games. And he's a veteran. And this was a game. This was a tough game. This was a big game for them to win. They have a back-to-back coming up over the weekend on Thursday and Friday. And one of those games is against Philadelphia. And I suspect that the plan was for Montembeault to play tonight and for Dobesh to play in Philly on Thursday. And on Friday they play. Who do they play on Friday? I can't think of who they play on Friday. Go back to Montembeault on Friday. He's going to get a lot of play, right? He's going to get a lot of ice time right now. He's a veteran. He's a known commodity. Martin St. Louis knows who he is. He knows what he's going to get from Samuel Montembeault. And Jakub Dobesh is a young rookie who hasn't played Carolina Hurricanes, correct, on Friday. Jakub Dobeš is a young rookie. Again, you can say that Montembeault is being played too much and he needs the rest. But as an NHL coach who is trying to win games and trying to keep his team in the playoffs, it's hard to ask him to move away from a known commodity like Samuel Montembeault in a situation like they were facing tonight, especially when you've got a back-to-back coming up, and you've got a bit of an easier game against the Flyers on Thursday, in which you can play Dobeš, right? You're going to have to play Dobeš in one of those two games. So you play Montembeault tonight, and you play Montembeault on Friday, and you play Dobeš on Thursday, right? And again, you can say that Dobeš should have started tonight, but again, I think that's pure 2020. It's 2020 hindsight, right? You've got a guy who hasn't lost a game in regulation in 10 games. So I got no problem with Dobeš playing, but again, he hasn't. He obviously got off to a hot start when he first joined the team, but he's played 12. I don't even know how many games he's played. 12, 13, 14 games in his entire career. Probably not even that many. And so you're not just going to throw a rookie goaltender with so little experience into a pressure cooker playoff run type game. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy decision to make. If the Habs go on a crazy streak and fly into the playoffs, would be awesome. Well, it's kind of what they're doing right now. Whiskey 56. They've been on a bit of a streak since the Four Nations break, and right now they're in a playoff position, but there's still about 12 games left to play, I think. So we'll see what happens between now and then. The Blues have been absolutely hot. They're playing really, really good hockey right now. They're playing really, really good hockey. If you're over on TikTok, guys, you can certainly ask your questions over there. I'm more than happy to do my best to respond to them. But if you do want to get the full effect of the show, you can join us on YT. The channel is Recliner Sports 4. We're over here doing a show. You can see the graphics on the screen and so on and so forth. You don't really get them on TikTok. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to do it that way. So if you do want to join us on YT, you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you come over and join us over here. You can get in the comment section and ask your questions over here as well. RDP says the scouting report is out. Shoot high on Dobeš. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that, RDP. I mean, there's a scouting report on most goalies, and I'm sure there's most goalies. It's known where they're stronger and where they're weaker, but I don't think that means that the goalie is bad, or that you're going to go out and score 6 or 7 goals against him every time just because that he stops fewer shots, high shots than he does low shots. So Monty needs practice too because he will be playing a bunch of games in the playoffs. Yeah. Again, I don't disagree with the concept that Montembeault is being overplayed right now. I don't disagree with that argument, and I do think he needs a rest. And I think tonight might have been a sign that he could have used, and not necessarily tonight, but that he's played a lot of hockey lately. But I don't think that starting Dobeš tonight would have made a huge difference, and I don't think it was the right move to start Dobeš tonight. So. Yeah, Montembeault's going to be the number one if they make the playoffs. I don't know that giving him a rest here and there between now and the end of the season is going to do that. The bigger issue is now they've got to make the playoffs, and as I said, right, Montembeault is a known commodity, and as a coach, it's hard to move away from a known commodity when you're playing games that absolutely matter. Canucks are fighting. Okay. Hex couldn't stop a beach ball for the Blues. Hex couldn't stop a beach ball for the Blues. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Mark. I'm not sure who Hex is, and I'm not sure what you mean. BPM Sports. Shame. If you can count on your goalies, you can release your offense. Yeah, I don't know if I don't fully understand what you mean by that. What are you suggesting that the Canadians can't count on their goalies? Again, Montembeault hadn't lost a game in regulation since February the 22nd. This is his first regulation loss since the 22nd of February. 10 games, 10 consecutive games where he either won or lost in overtime or a shootout. So Dobesh grew up in St. Louis. Monty is tired and never played this much. Don't think anyone would have argued with Dobesh starting. Well, I don't agree with that, Anonymous. I think it's 2020 hindsight to suggest that. I get the concept that he didn't grow up in St. Louis, but he played. He spends his off seasons in St. Louis and played junior hockey in and around the St. Louis area. You've got a goalie who you say that you don't think anyone would have argued with Dobesh starting. So if Dobesh had started and they had lost 6-1, you don't think anybody would have questioned that, Anonymous? You don't think anybody would have said, well, why are we starting Dobesh when Montembeault hasn't lost a game in regulation since February 22nd and he's our number one and he's a veteran and you're putting a rookie in the net who hasn't played in a long. You don't think anybody would have questioned that? You don't think that would have been a question somebody would have asked? I think they're trying to make Monty see how, if to make the playoffs, he will be playing a lot. Yeah, maybe, but I do think he needs rest. And I do think that Marty St. Louis understands that. It's just that it's really hard when you're in when you're every point matters, right? And you're looking for the guy who you think is going to give you the best opportunity to win. I don't know. Habs are not playing very good in the last couple of games. This loss was something we could see coming, just a setback. Okay. Again, I don't know. They didn't start well against Colorado. I'm not prepared to say they haven't played very good in the last couple of games, but Monty saved the day in the first period. Habs just didn't show up in the first period. Blues tee off on Monty. All of the first period. Yeah, I think it was a situation where Montreal maybe wasn't fully prepared tonight. They stepped on the ice against a team that was ready to go and a team that was going to give them a real run for their money tonight, and they just weren't able to respond to it. Well, again, it's I would be happy to move on from it, Anonymous, except you keep saying the same thing over and over again. Right, you keep repeating the fact that somehow Dobesh should have started tonight, and that it would have been a good decision to start him tonight. And again, so if you would stop repeating what you're saying, then I would probably be able to stop repeating what I'm saying, right? So, yeah, I mean, again, PLW, it's your workhorse. I do understand that he needs a rest. But I think that Friday or Thursday was the game they had targeted for him to have a rest. I am Ryder. Welcome. All right, gang. Let's get to the scoreboard here. So again, we had a 6-1 loss to the Blues tonight. There's your scoreboard, gang. I'm just going to make sure I got it right here. There we go. So the first goal of the game from Jordan Kyrou at 18:07. The first period, again, was, I think as PLW pointed out, the Canadiens didn't look that great in the first period, and it was, Montembeault actually kind of kept them in the game in that first period. They were being outshot by a wide margin. They did appear that they were going to be able to weather the storm and make it through that first period, but then there was a flurry of goals at the end of the period. Jordan Kyrou scored from Broberg and Holloway with about 2 minutes left in the period. The Canadiens then came right back on a goal from Nick Suzuki on a nice deflection on a Lane Hudson shot. Another assist from Caulfield at 18:54, so about 45 seconds later. And then a bit of a backbreaker from Dylan Holloway with 6 seconds left in the period from Broberg and Thomas. So, no scoring through the first 18 minutes of that first period, and then all of a sudden there were 3 quick goals, 2 for St. Louis and just 1 for Montreal. And so, I think if they had snuck through that first period, they might have been able to have a little bit of momentum and some confidence carry over into the second period. That just wasn't the case. Robert Thomas scored 3.5 minutes into the second period, assisted by Broberg, and then Alexander Texier with probably the one that really sealed the deal from Fowler and Joseph at 9:09 of the second period. After 2 periods, it was 4-1. A bit of a carbon copy of Saturday night's game against Colorado. Unfortunately, this was not the they weren't able to repeat the comeback that they did against Colorado, and certainly St. Louis wasn't prepared to let up. Third period was more of the same. Philip Broberg scores at 10-12 from Neighbors and Thomas, and Zach Bolduc, much to the excitement of Pierre Houd on RDS, scores from Thomas and Fowler at 18:02. And the final score is 6-1. The shots were 37-25 in favor of the Blues, so they were quite dominant in that respect. However, the Corsi and the Fenwick would seem to indicate that the game was maybe a little bit closer than the score indicates. 61-60 in favor of Montreal on the Corsi, and 46-45 in favor of the Canadiens on the Fenwick. Those are shot attempts, right? Shot attempts. So Corsi is shots directed towards the net, regardless of whether they hit the net or not. And Fenwick is shots directed towards the net that are not blocked. Again, those numbers would seem to indicate that perhaps things were a little bit closer than we might have thought. But again, possession and shots toward the net are not going to win you the games on a night in and night out basis. St. Louis 13-8 on high danger scoring chances, and they had a slight margin on expected goals, 3.16 to 3.07. Again, perhaps an indicator of Montembeault's struggles tonight, and that he didn't really have his best game. There was only a little over 3 expected goals, and he actually allowed 6, right? So that's almost 3 goals against above expected, which is not a number that you're looking for as a goaltender. So, the goals that St. Louis did score were ones that we might hope that Montembeault would save. It's certainly not arguing that it was a good game by him. I think he did struggle. There's no questioning that. But it happens from time to time, and it hasn't happened in a really long time for Samuel Montembeault. Right, and so Anonymous is, again, you're mad. You're mad that I keep repeating myself, but you keep repeating yourself, Anonymous. I agree with you. I know you didn't say he should have started. What I'm telling you is, I think that people would have argued if he did start. If the Canadiens had put Jakub Dobeš in nets tonight and they had lost 6-1, I think that you're crazy to think that nobody would have complained or argued about it. Just I think you're being a little bit dishonest with yourself when you say that. There are only so many games you can keep coming back from in a row before you can't do it again. Yeah, you can't keep going back to that well. It's not a recipe for success. Run with Kings. You can't just continually expect to take 2 periods off and then come back and win in the third period. It's a nice skill to have from time to time, but it's not something that you can do all the time. H.A.D's needed a reminder. What do you mean by that, C-Guy? What do you mean the H.A.D's needed a reminder? They needed a reminder. They needed, a little bit of a kick in the pants? Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah. I mean, if they can use it that way, then I think that's probably not a bad thing, right? If they can take this loss and it can be something that they can use to motivate them or to learn a lesson from, then I think it's a positive thing. As much as I like advanced stats, my eyes didn't see reflection of Corsi and Fenwick and more high danger scoring chances. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that PLW. I mean, again, Corsi and Fenwick can be, they can fool you sometimes. But again, I think it's an indication that the Canadiens perhaps didn't play quite as bad as a 6-1 score would indicate, right? And the fact that, if Montembeault had made a couple saves, the expected goals being right around 3. And, so again, expected goals would be an indication that, on a normal game, you would expect your goaltender to give up 3 goals, not 6. So then all of a sudden, you're talking about a 3-1 game instead of a 6-1 game or even a 4-1 game. So that's all I think the Corsi and the Fenwick are trying to tell us tonight. It tells us that the Canadiens, had some possession. They didn't get they didn't get the quality scoring opportunities that St. Louis did, and they didn't. The Canadiens didn't get the goaltending that St. Louis did. They didn't get their shots to the net, and they didn't get the shots to the net in a dangerous way, in the same way that the Blues did. Yeah, I mean, Fenwick, again, the power plays, but again, the Blues had more power plays tonight, and they scored on their power play. So I don't know that the Canadiens had a power play where they had a significant number of opportunities that would have sent the numbers that far off the track for Fenwick and Corsi. Yes, Enter Tap. I'm glad it's over too. I'm happy it's over too. It wasn't a very fun game to watch. A game to put behind you. Not one player stood out. Might get lucky if the Rangers and Detroit lose as well. Yeah, we'll see. We can agree to disagree, Anonymous. But again, I don't think you're being honest with yourself if you suggest that nobody would have questioned Marty St. Louis if he had started Dobesh tonight and they lost 6-1. I think there's lots of people that would have said, "What are you doing, putting a rookie in a pressure cooker situation like that?" And of course, his response would have been, "Montembeault needs the rest, and we needed to give, him a bit of a break." And again, I'm not saying it would have been a bad decision to start him, but I think you're being disingenuous when you suggest that it would have gone without question. There was one Habs power play that they dominated but couldn't score. Yeah, but again, how many? Again, I don't know that it would have. I don't know that it threw the numbers off to that great degree. PLW. Anyways, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole too far with the Corsi and the Fenwick tonight. I just think that it's an indicator. All of those numbers are an indicator that the score was probably overblown a little bit by Montembeault's struggles, and maybe as an indicator that the game was a little bit closer than 6-1 would indicate. That is correct, Anonymous. You are absolutely correct. That's, again, I don't think that conflicts with anything that I said. I'm not suggesting for a minute that the Corsi and the Fenwick are what the game is judged on. What I'm suggesting is that it might be an indicator that it might be an explanation as to what went wrong during this game, right? Why the score ended up at 6-1, right? That's what we do as fans. That's what I do anyway. I try and look for answers, right? I ask questions and I look for answers, and to me, those numbers give me answers about what went on with this game and why the score ended up the way it did. Jeremy DeLuca, welcome. Dobesh's first game in the NHL was versus Florida, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Correct. I think that's right. Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah. Keep it up. Yes, we're all cheering for your Kings tonight. Run with Kings. We are definitely on your side tonight. We're all LA Kings fans tonight, guys. Drayden Lizotte. All right. Anybody have any? I know we did this question the other night, but our shot in the dark tonight, guys. You got any responses to that? The shot in the dark tonight is who should Caden Gooley replace in Montreal's lineup when he returns from injury? Alors, c'est qui que Caden Gooley devrait remplacer quand il va revenir de son blessure à la jambe? C'est quel défenseur on va enlever de l'alignement quand Caden Gooley va revenir dans l'alignement des Canadiens? Sure, Olivier, whatever you say, man. On a final note, on the sometimes teams ahead take the feet off the speed pedal and skews the advanced stats. Okay, yeah. Again, those numbers are not the be all and end all. They just they're another tool you can use to assess the game. I don't think we would suggest that they let their foot off the pedal in the last little bit of the game, allowing Montreal to get a bunch of shots towards the goal. I followed the stats throughout the entire game. They didn't really do that. Mike Matheson. What about Mike Matheson, Jeremy? Who's been the weakest player for Montreal? What do you mean, run with Kings? Evans -3, Armia -3, Carey and Matheson -4. I'm concerned about Evans and Armia, who is obviously injured. Yes, Armia is injured. They're not playing, at the same level they did at other points of the season. That fourth line. We'll see. Again, it's one loss, guys. We're like they've they're winning at a pretty high rate right now, and so you think that they should take Matheson out of the lineup when Caden Gooley comes back? Anonymous says Jack Eye. The A-team, Suzuki, Caulfield, Dvorak, and Savard. Okay, I don't have those. That's not my... The level of fatigue, both physically and mentally, with Montembeault is clearly evident. He has played this amount of games, and we forget he also played in Four Nations. Needs to be managed carefully. I don't know that... tonight it appeared there was physical and mental fatigue there, but I don't know that his physical and mental fatigue has been evident in our tap. What are your indications? Well, he did play. He didn't play any games, but he was certainly at the tournament, and he didn't get a break like everybody else in the league did. Gooch. Gooley should be playing top minutes, not Matheson. How come, Jeremy? How come? Gooley has just sat out for over a month, and you're going to just put him back in the lineup, and you're going to give him 25, 26 minutes a game, and you're going to take out your best defensive defenseman and put Gooley in his spot. Struble playing 20-plus minutes versus Jack Eye, way low amount of minutes, showing who should be the odd man out. Yeah. Maybe. I think it should be between. I personally. There's arguments for and against any of these guys, right? By rights, it should be David Savard. But, being that he's one of two right-handed defensemen they have, it's tough to take him out of the lineup and leave them with, five left-handed defensemen. The weakest player for Gooley to replace. The weakest player is David Savard. And it's not really that close. But, he does do certain things that... are hard to replace, right? His ability to, kill penalties and his ability to be on the ice in tight games late in a game, right? To shut down guys. But, beyond that, he's not really contributing, on 5-on-5 in any real significant way. But, again, you look at the righty versus lefty dynamic as well. A-team, Monty, Newhook, Struble, and Hudson. You got 2 out of 4, PLW. It has the last 4 games he spent, and I'm afraid game like this could be... Well, again, I don't know what... I'm not seeing the same things you're seeing, Entertap. Again, I know that there's certain people in here who are tired of hearing it, but, he hasn't lost a game since February 22nd in regulation. So, I don't know. I don't. Again, I get that he. We can extrapolate from the number of games that he's played that he's probably a little fatigued. But it hasn't shown up in his play really. It hasn't really shown up in his play. I really don't see how Matheson is our best defensive defenseman. Well, maybe you should, Jeremy. Maybe you should look into it a little bit, right? Again, Mike Matheson has played against all of the best players in the league this year. He goes up against the other team's best players. He, over the last, 7 or 8 games the Canadiens have played, he shut down Connor McDavid. He shut down Nathan McKinnon. He shut down Nazem Kadri. He shut down Brady Tkachuk. He shut down Elias Pettersson. He shut down all of these top players in the NHL, right? And just because you see him make a couple of turnovers here and there, and you forget about everything good that he does, doesn't mean he's not a good defenseman. There's a reason why he's playing 25, 26, 27 minutes a game. If it's not for Mike Matheson, this team is not anywhere even close to a playoff spot. And I can't force you to dig a little bit deeper, but if you're going, because you see him, you see him he's going to make mistakes. He's on the ice 26, 27 minutes a game. There's going to be plays that don't look great. There's going to be plays where he makes a bad turnover or whatever. But that doesn't mean he's not good, and it doesn't mean the positives don't far outweigh the negatives for a guy like Mike Matheson. Absolument pas, Anonymous. L'équipe ne s'est pas présentée pour lui en première période. Lequel des premiers 4 buts Monty aurait pu arrêter? Well, he's the top player on that team, Anonymous. He's the number one guy. So again, this demonstrates the disingenuous way that you like to argue, right? I've just named you. I named you McKinnon, McDavid, Brady Tkachuk, Nazem Kadri, like all these guys, and the one name you pick out is Elias Pettersson, who played a very good game, by the way, and has played really good hockey over the last week before getting injured. He's played his best hockey of the year. So again, you can pick the one guy on that list that you don't think is great, but he's the number one center on that team, right? He's the number one offensive threat on the Vancouver Canucks right now. So, other than perhaps their defense, but I just think you're being, again, the numbers of Mike Matheson. I would love to have that graphic that Coach Frenchie had the other day on his show about Mike Matheson in his last 6 or 7 games and who he's played against. And I think he's a +5 or something in those games against McDavid, McKinnon, Brady Tkachuk, Elias Pettersson, Nazem Kadri, and there was another game in there as well. Yes, Jason Teal. He did not have a good game tonight. I don't think I said otherwise. I think most of the team was in the minuses tonight. But again, just because he had a -4 tonight. So again, I know you like to make a big deal out of the fact that I defend Montreal Canadiens players, Jason, because I think you're a bit of a tool. But I don't mind you criticizing players, and I think players are deserving of criticism, whether it's Patrick Laine, Mike Matheson, or anybody else. But be honest about your criticism, right? So you say that he is -4 tonight. How about the games before that? So against Colorado, he was a +2. Against the Islanders, he was a -1. Against Ottawa, he was a +2. Against Florida, he was even, right? That's the other guy he went against, Barkov. Shut Barkov down. Had a bad game against Seattle. He was a -2. Against Vancouver, he was a +1. He was even against Edmonton, right? He played against McDavid in that game and came out of that even. So, +1 against Buffalo. He went 7, 8, 9 games in a row without a negative game. So again, I'm not suggesting that Matheson is beyond reproach and that he doesn't have bad games. He certainly does. But the suggestion that he should be taken out in favor of Caden Gooley, or that Caden Gooley should be getting the 25, 26, 27 minutes a game and Matheson shouldn't be is completely ridiculous. So I have no problem with you criticizing players, Jason, but you know, I'm going to challenge you every single time when you criticize a player unfairly and you do it without a level of intelligence or factual basis or evidence to support it. So if you've got a problem with that, then this might not be the show for you. If you want to go somewhere else where you can just sort of talk out of your ass and sort of be a fanboy, then maybe there's another channel that's better suited for you. But if you want to like have legitimate conversations about players and what they bring to the team, and not just sort of base it on your own personal biases, then this is maybe not the right spot. PLW, I've been one of the ones to pound on Matheson, but he has been rock solid in Goulie's absence. He's played very, very well this year, right? Like, you know, there's a reason why Marty St. Louis puts him on the ice for that many minutes a game, right? Agree, Broberg. I could have grabbed it also, but for Kyrou, absolutely not. Blues were spinning a long time. I never said take Mike out for Goulet. I just said that Goulet is our number one defensive D when he's healthy. Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, Carrier's playing pretty good as well. But I mean, certainly over the last, you know, since Goulet's been out of the lineup, Mike Matheson has more than answered the bell and taken on that role. Goulet and Struble has better plus minus. If we're going to bring up plus minus, I don't really think it's a player. Well, it's the dumb stat, is what it is. But when you play against Connor McDavid and you play 27 minutes and you play, you know, half of those minutes against the guy who everybody says is the best player in the NHL, and you come out of it with an even plus minus rating, it means that you've had a good game. When you do the same thing against Nathan McKinnon, it means that you've had a good game. That's all I'm trying to say, Anonymous. Right? Goulet and Struble play far less minutes than Mike Matheson does, and they play far less difficult minutes than Mike Matheson does. Right? Like Mike Matheson goes out and plays. I mean, again, I'd love to have that graphic that Coach put up the other day where it showed the minutes that he played against the various top players on the various teams over the last little while. But when you go up against Barkov and you come out of it with an even rating, you know, you've had a good game, right? When you go up against Brady Tkachuk for 11, 12, 13 minutes in a game and you come out of it as a +2, you had a pretty good game. When you go against Colorado and you play against Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar for 12 or 13 minutes, 14 minutes even, and you have a +2, you're playing good hockey. So the idea that he was a -4 tonight and that all of a sudden means that Mike Matheson's a shitty hockey player is just kind of it's just not factual, and it's it just demonstrates a desire to tear down a guy for no reason. I'm not laying blame on Monty when team in front of him was horrible, but he played 41 games. Most past needs a rest. They could even have taken him out at the end. Yeah, again, I think the plan, Intertap, was for them to play Dobesh on Thursday, right? They've got a back-to-back coming up. They've had 3 days off since Saturday. I think and again, I think it's hard as a coach. I think it's hard to go away from a guy who gives you the better opportunity to win, right? I mean, I don't think anybody will argue that. At the end of the day, if you have to pick, if it was one game and you had to pick a guy to go for you, whether it's Dobesh or Montembeault right now, I don't think there's any argument that Montembeault is the guy who gives you a better chance to win that game. Obviously, if you're looking at the bigger picture in the long run and you need to give guys rest, yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think that Montembeault needs rest, and I think that not only that, but I think Dobesh also needs to play. Right? He's developing. He's a developing player, and he needs to get out there and play. But I just think the plan was for them, to split that home and home on Thursday and Friday. Yeah. Well, it's a dumb stat overall, Anonymous, because if you're talking about somebody's plus minus for the entire season, it's a dumb stat. But if you're talking about a guy going up against another top player in the league and coming out of it with more goals scored while you're on the ice than vice versa, then it has a little bit more value. Tell me why Gooley and Struble have better plus minuses than Mike Matheson this year, Anonymous. Tell me why. Is it because they're better defensemen? Yeah, I'm struggling to have this conversation with you, Anonymous, because either you're playing dumb or you are dumb. I'm not sure which, right? Like the reason Gooley and Struble have better plus minuses is because they play far less ice time, like half. Like the total minutes played this year is probably half, and they don't play against the same players that Mike Matheson does. Mike Matheson goes up against the other team's best players. Like I don't understand like what's so difficult to conceive. I mean, I know you're just trying to win an argument, and that you're basically willing to say anything to do it, but like be honest about it, right? Like again, I have no problem with you criticizing players. I have no problem with anybody criticizing players. If I disagree with you, I'll argue against it. But again, if you're not being honest about your criticism, then I'm gonna call you out every time. Like if you don't think that it's impressive that Mike Matheson played against Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid over the last week and a half, and came out of that matchup where he played probably 13 or 14 minutes of ice time against those guys. He's on the ice with those guys and comes out of it with a +2. Then I don't know what to help you with, man. Anonymous, if you're on the ice, you have more opportunities to get negative, especially when you're on a team that allows more goals than it scores. Right? The fact that Gooley has missed the last month and hasn't had an opportunity to get a single negative, a single minus, while Mike Matheson's been playing 26 minutes a game. That's why his minuses are greater than Gooley's. Like what don't you understand here? Gooley is a better defenseman. How don't you see his potential? Mike at his age is barely scraping minutes in Florida. Gooley is the future of this franchise. I don't disagree with that. Gooley is not a better defenseman right now than Mike Matheson. He certainly has the potential to be a better defenseman. Certainly when he plays on the left-hand side, he's an excellent defenseman and has a much better future than Mike Matheson. I agree with all of that. But again, the suggestion that Mike Matheson's a bad defenseman is stupid. It's just stupid. It's not. I'm sorry. Just use your brain. Mike Matheson has been playing excellent defense for the last month, and he's been a revelation to this team. You're right. He was only scraping minutes in Florida. But guess what? He came to Montreal and he scored 62 points last year, and he's basically played every role that the Montreal Canadiens have asked him to play. Right? He's played on the power play. He's played on the penalty kill. He's played 25, 26, 27 minutes a game, and he's done it really, really, really well. Yeah, you're right, Anonymous. But again, you're playing on a team that gives up more goals than it allows. Again, Anonymous, I can't deal with your stupidity anymore, man. I hesitate to block you, but I just literally, you're hurting my brain right now. I just watched a tough hockey game to watch, and literally, dealing with you is almost like having to watch it all over again. Like, your arguments are kind of like watching the Montreal Canadiens tonight. Like, you're struggling, you're not very good, you don't know what you're doing, you're all over the place, and I just can't deal with you, man. I can't deal with you. So I'm going to let you go. If you're not going to, you're just being stupid now. Like like I said, you're either dumb or you're being dumb on purpose to make your argument. Werenski, Makar, Hughes, Faber, Sergachev, Heiskanen, Sider, Yossi, Matheson. Yeah, they're not. They're all in different. They're all in a different category. PLW, very different categories. All right, guys, let's get to the A team so I can end the show and go and jump off a bridge so that I don't have to listen to Anonymous anymore. All right, guys, the A team for tonight is Hudson, Newhook, Caulfield, Slavkovsky. Those are my picks. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I crazy? Am I not crazy? Who did I miss? Who did I put on there that shouldn't be there? Let me know. Let me know who I should pick. Did I pick anybody wrong? Who did I get right? Who did I get wrong? I know you guys are going to disagree with me a little bit on Newhook, but I thought he had a really good game tonight. Again, he's a bit snake bit. He's not finishing. He's not scoring goals, but he's getting a ton of opportunities. I thought he had another really good game tonight. And there's Matt Rempe going to the penalty box again. I thought he played well. Who's Rempe taking a run at now? It's just a little spear in the nuts to Quentin Byfield. Lane Hudson again, just steady Eddie, right? He's again his defense has improved enormously. He gets an assist on the Canadiens' only goal, his 49th assist of the year, I think. But just he's been playing really solid hockey of late. He and Struble have been fantastic. Yeah, he's been really, really solid, and I think you could probably put him on the A team on most nights. Cole Caulfield again, not a great game, not a terrible game, but again, there weren't a lot of guys to pick from tonight. I thought Caulfield and Slavkovsky both played well. I thought Caulfield was skating tonight. Oh, now you're going to give me thumbs down, are you? Thanks, bud. Appreciate it. Yeah, Slavkovsky looked good tonight. He had a bunch of opportunities. Again, the puck just didn't seem to want to sit down for the Canadiens tonight. Like the puck was kind of jumping a little bit. They just couldn't really get the feel. And Slavkovsky was a bit of an example of that. Sorry, man. I can't deal with him anymore. He's got to go. Caulfield. Yeah, he played all right. Skated well. Like I said, I just don't think the puck was settling down for anybody tonight to make any real spectacular plays. I think the Newhook is playing really good hockey right now. PLW, I agree with you completely. There's the Kings just scored. Yeah, I think he's playing really good hockey right now. I'm happy with the way he's playing. I'm happy with the way the second line's playing. Again, keep in mind that he's been thrust into a position that he's perhaps not ideally suited for, and is probably not easy for him. But he's managing, and he's doing a more than adequate job, I think, of playing. Is he a second line center in the long term? Probably not. Almost certainly not. But he's doing a more than serviceable job in that role. Now that's where he's been asked to be. Struble could be on the A team. I agree. I think he and Hudson together are a pretty solid pair. Yeah. Again, Struble's been playing great hockey lately. I think he's a really, really good player, and he's really coming into his own. He's going to make it very, very hard for the Canadiens to make a decision when Caden Gooley comes back. Go Kings, go! Never thought I'd say that. You had Struble, yeah. I could see Struble. I mean, you could take, you might take Caulfield out and put Struble in there, perhaps. Yeah, I mean he's good. That's. I mean he's a big, physical, strong guy in our tap. I think he does a really good job of keeping the net front clear. When he's playing well, he does a good job of winning board battles. Playing with Hudson probably makes life a little bit easier for him. which is kind of silly or crazy to say when you think about the fact that Hudson's, a rookie and only 20 or 21 years old. But yeah, that Hudson-Struble pairing is, you couldn't ask for anything more from them. I think they're both playing really, really good hockey, and you're seeing Struble, I think somebody mentioned it earlier, he's playing 18, 19, 20 minutes a game. You prefer Struble over Jack-Eye? Yeah, I don't. Just because Jack-Eye brings other elements to the game.
I don't have an answer for that. Is there?
Sorry there, bud. I think that Jack-Eye is a bit of a unicorn, and I think the Canadiens want him to be there. I don't see them. I also think that Jack-Eye continues to improve. Although again, Struble is again. There's going to come a time where there's a lot of decisions to be made on this team about who you keep and who you don't keep. Right? Like if Reinbacher makes the team next year, or if Mailloux makes the team next year, or if Engstrom makes the team next year, there's going to be there's a lot of decisions to be made here. Whether it's Struble, I just think that Jack-Eye is going to be somebody that I don't really expect them to move on from. Yeah, I don't. Arbor as a bargaining chip. Struble could be a nice bargaining chip too. I don't see them abandoning a guy who brings the elements that Arbor Jack-Eye brings to the game. I don't think they're going to want to abandon a guy who could be the toughest guy in the league, or at least one of the 2 or 3 toughest guys in the league, who brings a certain level of intimidation, who brings a certain level of, other guys are going to be on their best behavior when he's out there, who can also, contribute to the team, right? Yes, Struble's tough, and yes, he's a big physical guy, but when you have a guy like, Jack-Eye and what he brings to the team, and he's not a liability, he's a guy who can play 13, 14, 15 minutes a game, I don't think that's something that they're going to be prepared to move on from. He's more reliable, but again, look at the difference between the 2 partners they're playing with, right? PLW, right? Like Jack-Eye's playing with David Savard, who is struggling mightily, especially on 5-on-5. Whereas Struble is playing every shift with Lane Hudson. So again, I'm not tearing Struble down at all. I think Struble's playing incredible hockey. I think he's playing really, really good hockey. But again, I don't think they're going to be willing to or prepared to move on from the combination of skills and talents that Arbor Jack-Eye brings. I just don't think that's, from what I've seen so far from this team, I don't think that's a very likely scenario. Florian can be a player sneaking in. Again, another indication as to why I don't think they're going to be, why I think they believe so highly in Arbor Jack-Eye is that they went out and drafted his brother, right? What this game has shown us is that we are still lacking to be a serious contender, especially in the playoffs. St. Louis played a big, tough game and did not allow Habs to skate or generate opportunities. And I don't know that that's what I'm. Again, I'm not trying to just disagree with you here, Intertap, but it didn't really show that to me. Again, I think it's another winning habit that I think they have to learn, is to how to respond to another team that's coming out on fire and how to play that kind of game. I don't think that this one game tells me that they're not ready for the playoffs or that they're not a serious contender. I don't think they're a serious contender to begin with, right? I don't think anybody is suggesting that Montreal is a serious contender for the playoffs. Yeah, they're in a playoff spot, and yeah, they have a chance to make the playoffs, but whether they make the playoffs or not, if they do make the playoffs, it's because they sneak in. It's not because they're, they had a great, dominant season. Their season is above expectations, but they're not, if they get into the playoffs, it's because the Rangers kind of shit the bed. It's because the Bruins, fell off the face of the earth. You know, it's because, you know, Columbus, you know, wasn't able to put it all together when the time came. It's not because they turned, you know, I don't know. I just don't know that this one game tells us all of that. How many many lefty Ds Habs need to optimize their return for one or two of them? I agree. Savard will stay because he is a righty and he plays first PK, and PK has been successful. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. At the end of the season, he will probably retire. I don't disagree with that either. I think he'll either retire or he'll take a 1-year contract and be, you know, like a seventh defenseman type, a guy who sits in the press box and, you know, comes in if somebody's injured or spells guys from time to time to give them a rest. Yeah, again, I don't buy those numbers, PLW. I'm going to have to look at them again. You know, I know you mentioned that last time, and I said I was going to look at them. I didn't. They're not giving up more goals 5-on-5 this year than they did last year. I'm not buying that. I'll have to look it up, and if you're right, you're right, and I'll tell you. You know, I'll apologize. I'll agree with you, but I'm not buying. I'm not buying that they're giving up a quarter of a goal per game more on 5-on-5 this year than they did last year. So I'm not buying that. In fact, I'll look that up as soon as I get off the air here tonight. Anyways, I think that's probably going to be it for tonight anyway, guys. We're on the air for a little over an hour here now. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here in Nova Scotia. I have to get up in the morning, so I think we'll end the show there. Again, 6-1 loss for the Montreal Canadiens to the St. Louis Blues tonight. Not the end of the world, guys. We'll continue watching the Rangers and see if the Kings can take them out and do the Montreal Canadiens a favor. Playoffs are not really the issue this year. Just saying that we still need to get bigger and stronger in this rebuild. Absolutely. I don't think that was ever. I don't think I needed tonight's game to tell me that, Intertap, I guess is what I'm saying. We'll be coming with some prospects, but right now, not at the same level as St. Louis. Yeah, we're not at the same level. Oh, here's a fight, Matt Rempe and Tanner Jeannot. Oh, Tanner Jeannot could tune Rempe up if he gets a hold of him. Jesus, Matt. Oh, my God, Matt Rempe. You're embarrassing. What an embarrassing. Oh, he broke his finger. Matt Rempe is the worst hockey player in decades in the NHL. You know, I don't think there's. I mean, for me, you know this very well. I'm not judging this team on the playoffs this year. I'm not judging this team on whether they're able to make the playoffs. I don't think that's, you know, the marker of success for this team. But it is what it is. Anyways, gang, that's it for tonight. I appreciate everybody. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, PLW. Thank you, EnterTap. All of the rest of you who are here. If you're not following yet, if you're not subscribed, please do so. I apologize for getting a little bit rangy there over our good friend Anonymous, but again, there's only so much I can take. Perhaps I should be a little bit more patient, but sometimes I'm not. So for that, I apologize. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. I certainly enjoyed your contributions. Run with Kings was here. Adrian was here. Olivier was here to make sure that I was speaking enough French. It's like the Bill 101 police. The Office de la Langue Française was here checking up on us. So tomorrow will be a better day. Intertap. Yeah, I'm not that upset. I just like to. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I just can't. Anyways, it is what it is. Sometimes it bothers me so much to hear people make disingenuous arguments, just to support their cause, you know, and you know, to prove a point that's not provable, with reality. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for participating. Thanks for your comments and your questions. We will see you next time. Je vais parler en français. Merci beaucoup tout le monde d'être ici. Merci pour vos commentaires, pour vos questions, pour votre participation. On va vous voir après le match de jeudi soir contre les Flyers. Alors, bonsoir pour maintenant. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Thursday after the Flyers game. I don't think I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow night. I have another commitment that I cannot. I could get out of it, but I can't. I don't want to. I have to go out for a friend's birthday, and it's going to mean that I can't do a show tomorrow night. So we'll see you shortly, guys. Again, thanks very much. I'm kind of rambling on here at the end of the show. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Hit the thumbs up. Thank you very much for that thumbs down from Anonymous. He's the best. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace. Oh, by the way, Entertap, did you notice that Coach is now doing the peace out? He did the peace out last night after at the end of his show. I thought that was awesome. So anyways, peace out, guys. Have a good one.
Hoffman, Monahan parked in front. Dr. Caulfield fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.